Hi guys, Peter Coles here, and there is no shortcut to learning a language. Take this from somebody who can speak 25 languages. It is hard, believe me. If there was a shortcut, think about it, then everybody would learn a language. If there really was a way to learn a language in 7 days, or something that didn't take much effort, then surely everybody would do it. But very few people learn languages. You don't see millions of people around the world taking language classes. Why? Because at the end of the day, learning languages is difficult. And anybody trying to sell you a shortcut or a way to learn it in a very short period of time is just trying to take your money. Even things like Duolingo, it's just a game. They want to keep you on the app, and because they can keep you on the app, they make money out of you. Ad revenue or upselling you. And this whole thing with the streak is just to make you addicted. The point of these apps is not to teach you to learn a language, but just to keep you addicted and using the app every single day. And when it comes to AI, people say, oh, well, it's getting really good now. We can use AI teachers. I've tried them. They get it wrong so much of the time. They are not native speakers. They're only programmed by humans and they make mistakes. You ask ChatGPT even to translate certain words and it gets it wrong. And then you try and correct ChatGPT and it says, oh yeah, I knew it was wrong. Okay, let me give you the right answer. Well, why didn't give me the right answer in the first place? And if I couldn't speak the language, I would never have known it was wrong and I would have picked up the language incorrectly. No, none of these methods work yet. I'm not saying that in the future there will not be a way to learn a language quicker or easier. But at the end of the day, if there isn't a way to inject knowledge into our brains or scan our brains and fill it up with languages, you're not going to learn a language super quickly. The only way you're going to do this is by hard work. And as somebody who can speak 25 languages, I am going to go through again exactly how I did it. The absolute best way to learn a language is with a human teacher. A teacher who is qualified, experienced, and knows how to teach you that language. A native speaker of a language isn't going to make a mistake. AI will get it wrong, apps will get it wrong, even non-native speaker teachers will get it wrong. But native speaker teachers, one-on-one, know exactly how to teach you a language. So write to one. And if you don't know which one to write to, feel free. I run a school, my messages are open on Instagram, TikTok, Telegram. Send me a message and I will recommend you which teacher to use. You need a textbook. It doesn't matter which textbook you use, the teacher normally has a specific one for each language. Most languages have one major textbook series, but write to your teacher first or send me a message and I will advise you which textbook to use and just go through it with the teacher. I know it's hard work. I've been learning Hungarian now for 4 years. Hungarian isn't even the top 10 probably most difficult language, definitely not in the top 5. And it's taken me 4 years now to get an intermediate level. Somebody who can speak lots of languages, even I find it difficult to learn the really difficult languages like Chinese, Korean, Japanese. These take a lot of time. Of course, if you're learning a language that's very similar to the one you could already speak, if you're German and you're learning Dutch, or if you're Spanish and you're learning Italian, yes, it will be a lot easier and you can maybe get a good level in 1 year. In fact, that's how I learned so many languages. In my last video, I discussed how I did it. I learned a lot of languages that are similar and that helps speed up the process. That is arguably a shortcut, but it's not really a shortcut to learning every language. It's a shortcut to learning lots of different European languages. But I did do them all with teachers. But having a teacher is not enough. You need to work in your free time. So what can you do? You can go through all the materials that you've used in your class, your textbook, your notes, maybe they have some Google Doc that they write all the notes in. Go through that in your free time after the class, at the weekend when you're not taking your classes. Preferably you should be taking the classes 2 to 3 times a week. More is even better. I normally do 5 classes a week for most of the languages I learn. And then I have the weekends and the evenings to go through the things that I've done. And the other thing you can do is find all the vocabulary that you've learned in the classes and write it down in a notebook. And even better, grab a small dictionary and find other words that you think would be really useful and write them down in the notebook as well. And then in your free time, when you're traveling around, or you're sat on transport, or you're waiting for something, you can just go through your book and read all the vocabulary again and again until it's stuck in your brain. And one thing you're most likely already doing is watching YouTube, you're watching Netflix, you're watching podcasts, watching films and TV series, but you're probably doing it in your own language, or at the very least in English. No, you should be doing it in the language you're learning. Now, it might be in English and you set the subtitles to the language you're learning. Great, you read the subtitles, you can bring the language into your mind, but you need to be picking up the language somehow. The best would be to have dubbing. If there's an option that you can change the spoken language, this is really good. But for beginners, yeah, subtitles are good. And for absolute beginners, I strongly recommend that you watch children's TV series like Peppa Pig, like Thomas the Tank Engine, whatever it is in your country, or maybe the language you're learning has a specific TV series that people like to watch. Children's TV shows are great, but really sit there and take the language on. You need to immerse yourself into the language, because people who learn the language best are people who are in the country where they speak that. Now, I'm not going to recommend you do this. It's obvious. If you have the opportunity to do it, then great. Most of you probably can't just fly to China tomorrow. You've got jobs, you've got school, and you're learning these languages online, for example. So if you can go to these countries, great. If not, it's not the end of the world, but you do need to be using these languages. You need to be speaking them as much as possible. You need to find every opportunity, people you know, friends, family, even like people online that you can just talk to. Just practice. Just start writing the language, chat to them, voice notes, video calls. This is absolutely the best way to learn a language. And find people who are patient, those who are willing to listen to you, making mistakes and not judge you, and then simply people who are able to correct you lightly. This is the best way to do it, because if you can speak the language very often, it's perfect. But let's say you don't have any people to speak this language to. This is why a language teacher is so fundamental, because this is the one person who understands you, who knows you, who is patient with you, who will listen to you, and you can speak to them during that class. Once you pass the beginner level, you can just start chatting for the whole hour. Even better if it's like a few times a week. Chatting this language is going to get you picking it up so much quicker. So now compare the way that I've just described how to learn a language versus things like apps and AI and all these shortcuts that don't actually work. Which do you want to really do? Do you want to put the time and effort into learning a language, or do you want to find a shortcut? Because if you want to find a shortcut, you don't really want to learn the language. At the end of the day, the process is part of what makes learning language so fun. You go from not speaking the language at all to learning it after a number of years, and you can feel so proud of what you've achieved. If you're just looking for shortcuts, you just want to be able to speak the language or brag about it, you don't really want to go through the process. And that means you're never going to really learn a language. Going into this, you need to be prepared for the long haul. You need to understand that the task is going to be very difficult and there is no shortcut. But at the end of the day, it will be amazing when you achieve this. So if you've listened to what I've said and you do still want to learn a language, feel free to write to me. Message me the language you want to learn and I will help you out. Even if you find a teacher through me or go to somebody else, I'm always online to help you out. And I hope you take my advice. I hope you start learning with a teacher, taking it seriously, even if it's just one language for now. And you go from not speaking that language at all to speaking it to an intermediate or to an advanced level. That would be amazing. If I can convince you to do something that's positive in your life, I will be so happy. And if any of my videos have ever convinced you to learn a language, please let me know in the comments. I'd be really happy to hear from you. See you next time.